Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome in tonight for College Hoops Tonight. I am your host, as always, Austin Samuels. Tonight we've got a big slate for you, talking about two top 5 matchups that went down last weekend, as well as another, a couple shockers that happened this week, and some big time trouble in the Big Ten Conference with a few huge upsets in there this past week. That said, let's hop right into it. Alrighty, and so for our first game of the week on Friday night, we had number 5 Villanova travel to take on number 2 UCLA. UCLA was able to pull out the game 86-77 in overtime. Great game between two really good teams. Villanova, for them, Connor Gillespie and Jermaine Samuels led the way with 18 and 20 points, respectively. And for UCLA, they were led by their 2-star guards, Johnny Juzang and Jaime Jaquez. Juzang finished with 25, and Jaquez finished with 21 and 13 rebounds. Now, both of these teams are really good. As I said before, this was an up and down game, back and forth, really exciting basketball to watch. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if these two teams played again deep in the NCAA tournament somewhere. Both teams are really talented. I think UCLA could maybe be the best team in the country. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Villanova's not going anywhere with this loss, that's for sure. But a great game on Friday night. So hopping into our next game on Saturday night, it was number 8 Texas traveling to take on number 1 Gonzaga. Gonzaga ended up pulling this one out 86-74. For Gonzaga, it was Drew Timme who absolutely dominated with 37 points on 15 of 19 shooting. Despite Chet Holmgren's off night, Gonzaga looked pretty dominant in this one. For Texas, they were led by forward Timmy Allen with his 18 points, while star guard Marcus Carr had a bit of an off night for him, just shooting 4 of 13 from the field. So this game also featured two really talented teams, Texas and Gonzaga, going back and forth at it. Gonzaga was actually up big in this game, a lot bigger than the score shows, but Texas fought to make it a little bit of a game, coming down to the stretch, although Gonzaga still won by double digits. Texas, I'm not saying they're not legit. I still think they can be big-time contenders in the Big 12 this year with Chris Beard as their head coach. However, Gonzaga was just far and away more talented than them, and their star freshman, Chet Holmgren, didn't even play well in this game. But, yeah, I think Gonzaga was just too talented for Texas. And so now that brings upon the discussion, which I'm going to touch on just for a second, about who is the best team in the country right now. Personally, I couldn't really tell you. Most people would say Gonzaga if you ask them. However, I don't know if that's necessarily true. UCLA and Gonzaga are not expected to face off on the schedule. However, right, you never know when they could face off down the road. I would argue that Villanova was a better team than the Texas team that Gonzaga beat. But I think if you look at top-end talent, I personally think, Drew Timme is perhaps the best player in the country. Besides, maybe Paolo Banchero for Duke. Drew Timme's really good, right? There's no arguing that. But I just think UCLA has a bigger collection of talent than Gonzaga, with Johnny Juzang, with Jaime Jaquez, with Tiger Campbell, with Cody Riley, all guys who are at least all Pac-12 conference players, up to that caliber, up to that standard of players. So I would personally make a bit of a controversial, pitch, a controversial take and say that right now, UCLA is the best team in the country. Now, I may eat my words on that in the future, but if I had to pick right now, I would go with UCLA as my #1 team in the country. So now hopping into a couple of the other games. Here, Florida State, who was ranked number 20 at the time of this game, they're not ranked anymore. They fell to their rivals, the Florida Gators, 71-55 on Sunday. Florida State was held to just 38% shooting from the field. They were led by senior forward Malik Osborne with his 18 points. Florida breaks their 7-game skid to their rivals, Florida State, and were led by the two big men. 7-footer Colin Castleton led the way with 15 points and 16 rebounds, and forward Anthony Druja tacked on 15 more as well. I would personally say, my thoughts from this game is that Florida State might be a little bit of an imposter. They were predicted to maybe contend for the ACC title along with Duke, Virginia, and UNC. And usually they're always good, and I have no doubt that they'll turn it around at some point. However, this team doesn't seem as legit as we thought they were. However, for Florida, they were one of my 5 sleepers in the Power 5 conference, and I think this is a huge win for them to start the season. And I think they're going to be really competitive in the SEC and surprise a lot of people. Looking at our last big game of the week, BYU absolutely demolished Oregon the other night. BYU wins 81-49 against the Ducks. The Cougars were led by Alex Barcelo's 25 points on a great shooting night from him. Oregon, on the other hand, shot just 32% from the field. They were absolutely shut down offensively. They were led by forward Eric Williams Jr.'s 12 points. So similar to Florida State, I think, Oregon, obviously it was a bad shooting night. You can't put all your eggs, in one bad shooting night. However, I do think they could perhaps be a little bit of an imposter as well. Oregon is always competitive in the Pac-12, and they were predicted to, maybe even be up there with UCLA, which I personally don't think is in the realm of possibility. However, Oregon definitely needs to do some looking in the mirror for themselves going forward after a really tough loss to BYU. But BYU, on the other hand, I think this definitely puts them as a legitimate, NCAA tournament team as of right now. So lastly, looking at a couple of big upsets in the Big Ten Conference over the past week. 4 Big Ten teams going down. Well, actually more Big Ten teams going down, but here are the 4 biggest losses that the Big Ten took this week. Firstly, George Mason tops number 20 Maryland Terrapins 71-66. George Mason was led by senior Deshaun Swartz, 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 three-pointers. Seton Hall takes down number 4 Michigan. Juwan Howard's team goes down. The Pirates were led by senior shooting guard Jaron Rhoden's 16 points and 5 rebounds. They absolutely shut down the Michigan Wolverines offensively. Next, the Marquette Golden Eagles take down the number 10 Illinois Illini. They were led by senior guard Daryl Morsels, 21 points and 3 three-pointers. And lastly, but not least, the Penn State Nittany Lions get absolutely rolled over by UMass in this one. Definitely a big surprise, although Penn State's not a big basketball school, not a great team. Tough loss for them. They were held to just 37% from the field. So looking forward at the rest of this week, we got some really, really good matchups. So, multiple ranked teams matching up this weekend and going into next week. College basketball is just heating up, ladies and gentlemen. It is getting good. And you know where you can find all of the coverage for college basketball right here on College Hoops Tonight. But I think that's just about going to do it for us here on Friday night. So if you like this content, hit that subscribe button so you can always stay up to date with live college basketball updates once a week. I'm your host, Austin Samuels, and I hope you have a great weekend. You've been watching College Hoops Tonight.